When you live in the country, you need to be aware of soil and water conservation. Today we're talking to Max Schneff. We're going to talk about walking your land. Max, what do you mean by walking your land and reading your land?
Well, you've got to get to know where you live and how that land functions. And if you're buying a new acreage, for example, you ought to go out and really walk that land from corner to corner and find out what natural resources are there and how they're functioning. Do you have soil erosion problems?
Right.
Do you have potential water quality problems? What can you do from the standpoint of habitat? Are there things that you can do to conserve energy and promote biodiversity? Make your homestead more aesthetically pleasing.
Right.
But the idea is to really walk the land, and then reading the land is figuring out how it's functioning and what the problems might be and what the opportunities might be, and deciding what kinds of conservation treatment might be appropriate.
And so I've bought my property, and I walk around my land, and I see that I have a creek running through it.
Right.
And what should I do about that? Is there anything?
Well, there are a couple of things, and we're at a good place here. It's probably not real visible, but there's a creek here off to our left, and
okay.
it's pretty well buffered. But it's important, if you've got a creek or a stream, larger stream running through your land, to make sure the stream banks are stabilized and well vegetated, and that you've got a good vegetative cover on the adjacent banks, some width back from the stream bank. That can be grass, that can be shrubs, that can be trees, but it all helps stabilize the stream bank, and it filters runoff water as it moves from the uplands into the stream. Now, we've got situations here in this land we're walking over where there's some concentrated flow coming off the uplands.
All right.
And it's starting to head cut here. It's starting to
cut. I see there's some ridges cut down in the ground.
It's starting to cut a gully through here.
Okay.
And in spite of this being fairly well vegetated, it really needs some conservation work done to stop this head cutting.
And what would I do here, Max?
Well, you would probably, if it were a much deeper head cut, you'd probably want to reform it and revegetate it. But there happens to be an area here where water's collecting and running in a stream down into the creek here. What you want to do is diffuse that runoff.
Okay.
So you want to get rid of concentrated flow, and there are a number of conservation practices that you can use to accomplish that.
And I have some questions about a pond too. Can we walk over there?
Sure.
Max, are there some conservation issues you see with the pond here?
Yeah, there are. This pond, and any pond, is a function of the watershed above the pond. The water runs off the uplands into a pond like this, and it may or may not create problems depending upon the conservation treatments. Now here we've obviously got an algae problem that's developed. The pond is rich in nutrients, probably as a result of the livestock that are in the pastures around this pond, and the fact that there's no filter or buffer around the pond. It's closely mowed right down to the pond edge.
So we shouldn't mow up to the edge.
The pond would be much healthier if we had a native grass or a grass, shrub, tree buffer around the pond that would filter the water as it runs into the pond.
All right. So you want to be aware of what's around your pond.
Yes.
And if I wanted to make some changes to my property with the pond, with the creek, or my pastures, where would I go for help?
Well, there's a lot of programs available today. In fact, more programs and money than ever before for conservation work. Go to your local conservation district office. Conservation districts were created about 70 years ago. There's a conservation district office in practically every county across the country.
Great.
And there are federal, state, and local employees in those offices who know conservation problems and how to solve them. And they can tell a landowner whether he or she is eligible for the many programs that are available, not only at the federal level, but state programs, local programs, even private sector programs from a lot of fish and wildlife groups are available to landowners. So lots of help available. And those folks there would be glad to come out and, again, walk your land with you, help you read your land, and show you what problems you have and how to solve those problems, or whatever other things you might want to do from a conservation point of view.
It sounds like great advice, and I'm going to get to work on my property.
Okay.
Thank you, Max.
Surely.